because I lived as a bug, and I fought through the cave, and I crawled out of the ground, and obviously there's some symbolism there, and I'm not sure exactly what it all means. Oh, no, here, this is something I felt. I forgot to mention this. All right, so I really want to talk about my experience with this plant, ayahuasca, and it was a hell of an experience. So it's going to be hard for me to put it into words. This is going to be kind of a lengthy video, so I'm going to try to put some notes in the description, or you can check for different chapters in the status bar in the video to see what you want to hear me talk about. Because it's going to be just me, my face talking, not a lot of visuals in this video, just my voice mainly. So let's try to jump right into this experience. And I have some notes on my computer here, so I might be glancing between the camera and my computer back and forth, so just bear with me while I do that. I'll talk real quickly about what ayahuasca is, but not get into all the details of it. So essentially it's a plant medicine in the form of drink, and it's common in some parts of the Amazon rainforest here in South America. It's kind of a spiritual experience. It's usually done as part of a ceremony with a shaman to guide you through it. And then for those that don't speak the native language, they'll have a translator. It's a way to connect with nature. It's also a way to kind of have like an internal reflection of some things going on in your own life. It has helped people get over mental issues like depression and PTSD. It's very common with soldiers who have trauma from wars. It can help cure people from addictions with like cigarettes and alcohol and things like that. But for me, I'm not like really into all the spiritual stuff, and I'm not looking for any kind of like help getting through traumas. You know, I got through my military career pretty fine. But I've heard a lot of interesting stories about this, and I just was really curious mainly. So I just wanted to kind of try it and just see what happens. But no, mainly I just thought it would be a fun and unique cultural experience, and maybe so here I should have started with this. Although it's a medicine, it's a very strong psychedelic drug, but it's not a recreational drug. So it's a very strong mind-altering substance. So what I was hoping to gain from that was, at the very least, something visually entertaining. See some imagery. People report seeing geometric shapes and interacting with beings, and sometimes they say it's kind of like third person, like out-of-body experience or interdimensional experience. So it sounded very, very interesting, and I just wanted to try it and see how it goes. And generally it's pretty safe. Some people do have some negative experiences, but mostly it's all positive. So most people that go into this ayahuasca ceremony, they take it very seriously, and as part of that, you're supposed to have a very strict diet. Part of that is like spiritual to cleanse your mind, and part of it is physiological to cleanse your body. But essentially they recommend like no alcohol, no drugs of any kind, no stimulants to include even coffee and tea, no animal products, so you're basically eating vegetarian, vegan food, no processed foods. And what they say is like, some people say you can do it like 2 or 3 days prior, or some people say 2 to 4 weeks prior, you're supposed to go on this special diet. What I did, I stopped drinking alcohol like 3 weeks ago, just for the hell of it. And then I put myself on this special diet with all the other restrictions for 1 week prior. So for the 7 days leading up to this ayahuasca thing, I didn't have any caffeine, no meat. I think I accidentally had some cream-based products once when I was at the restaurant, but mostly just eating like vegetables. So I did my best to follow their guidelines because I didn't want to have any like negative reactions to the drink, which can be pretty strong. And I'll just tell you, even before I did the ayahuasca thing, just being vegetarian for a week was hard for me. My primary diet is like steak, eggs, and cheese, and so I didn't have any of my staple foods for a week, and so I was craving it, and I felt like my body was missing nutrition and nutrients, and like I was still going to the gym, but I had no energy, and so you're going to the gym with no caffeine, no good proteins, trying your best to get a good workout in, and then after your workout, what are you supposed to do? Get protein from quinoa and other vegetables. So it's kind of a miserable week anyways. So I put myself through this vegetarian diet for a week. And then the worst part was the night before the ayahuasca thing, you're supposed to drink this like volcanic mineral water that they give you. And that basically gives you diarrhea and vomiting to make you cleanse your body even further. So they gave me 3 bottles of this stuff, and I I opened one bottle and started drinking it, and it tastes like salty seawater. It was disgusting. So I poured the other 2 bottles out. I drank one. It was awful. It did give me diarrhea. And then I went into the ayahuasca thing the following day with basically having fasted for almost a full 24 hours, having diarrhea the night before. So it's all part of the process. You're supposed to kind of go through that. But it was hard. It was hard even before the ayahuasca thing started. So let's move into the ceremony now. All right, so my ceremony time was at 9 in the morning. So you go to this business. There's all these businesses around Cusco and outside of Cusco and different parts of Peru and different parts of South America. So I go to this business that does these ceremonies, and they take me up to the 3rd floor where there's the shaman there. And I was basically having a private experience because no one else wanted to do these kinds of experiences in the city. They usually like go into the jungle of the Amazon or something to do it there. But I just said, just give me the drink. I just want to try it, get the chemical reaction in my brain to see how it goes. So I was having a private ceremony, which was kind of cool, I guess. I don't know what the experience would have been like if there was other people in the room with me. So it's just me, the shaman, and then part of the time there's a translator there. He wasn't there for the full time because he had to run the shop on the 1st floor. So up on the 3rd floor, in kind of a private room with no windows, some decorations, and you can hear things outside because we're in the middle of the city, some cars honking and some people on the streets, but you can't really see out there. And then there's a secondary room to go to the bathroom. So we're in a private, like, dead-end room with no windows, and then you can go out to this other room where the bathroom is. That'll come into play later. Okay, so I sit down, and the shaman with the translator, they explain to me what's going to happen. Basically, I take the drink. It's like a cup, and I drink it, and then the shaman's going to check on me in 45 minutes to see if there's any effects. So I drink the first cup. It tastes terrible, but I've drank a lot of terrible things as I traveled. So I just choked it down and then kind of laid down on this mat. They give you like a little mat with a blanket and pillow to kind of sleep in if you want it. So I laid down for 45 minutes and no effect. So the shaman, he checks on me. I said, yeah, I'm not feeling anything yet. So he brings me a second cup and full to the brim. So I down the second cup and then, I don't know, I guess I laid down again. And after a little while, that's when things started to happen. So the first things that I remembered was some shapes, like geometric patterns. It was kind of like brightly colored, kind of like your traditional psychedelic experience. Not that I've done it before, but you've seen it on TV and movies and stuff like that. A bunch of flashing colors and movement and stuff like that. But mine were more specifically like, the forms were more of like bird wings or palm fronds or like paper snowflake decorations, like sort of those kind of geometric shapes. And they were forming animals and people and other entities. Most of the animals that I remember were like snakes, birds like eagles or falcons or condors or something, and then like cats. And those 3 are probably coming out of my subconscious because in the Peruvian culture here, those 3 animals, the snake, the puma, and the condor, are like, they're culturally significant to the Inca. So I'd read about that, so I think maybe subconsciously that was coming out. I don't know if it was the drugs forcing those animals on me or not, but it was a lot of those 3 animals. And then, like I said, humanoid entities as well. And it was kind of like a big blanket of them above me, and it felt like they were kind of coming in at me, like smothering me in a good way. And okay, so in this room, there's no windows, but there is a skylight where you can't really see out, but light can come in. I think as clouds were going over, it could change from light to dark. And so there was this brightly colored stuff with the animals and the people and everything. And then I think what happened was a cloud came over and the room got a little bit darker. And then my visions started transitioning to me being in like a dark cave. And there was like stalagmites or stalactites coming down from the ceiling and kind of like pressing in on me. Kind of claustrophobic, a little bit ominous, but like I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared through any of this stuff. I will be later, but all the stuff I'm going to talk about right now was like happy, enjoyable experience because like I was still lucid enough to know that I'm just seeing things and it's not real. It's just visions, visual stuff. So these stalactites from the cave are coming in, closing in on me, and everything's kind of tight and dark. And I felt like it was supposed to be scary, but it wasn't. And there's even like a dragon or a monster in this cave, but it didn't seem too threatening, and I just kind of moved past it. And And the earth was like closing in. This cave was getting smaller and smaller, and eventually like I kind of broke free, like back out to the surface, and it felt like a triumphant thing, like I had escaped from something, I pushed through. And that's a recurring thing, by the way, this feeling of breaking free from something. So we'll touch on those again later. So the next thing that happened, and I don't know how the transition worked from one thing to another, but at some point I ended up in a spider's web with a giant spider next to me. At first I felt like I was a spider because I was in the web and it was not a problem. But how many times have you seen two spiders in the same web? It happens sometimes, but it's pretty rare. So I think maybe I was actually like a fly or a prey or something stuck in the web with this giant spider. Again, I'm not afraid of any of this. This is all a pleasant experience for me. I should mention, I'm terrified of spiders. Like, I'm so afraid of spiders, even like looking at pictures or videos of them can be too much for me sometimes. I'm deathly afraid of spiders. But in this experience, when I was in the spider web with a giant spider, it did not bother me at all. And the web, as I remember it, was not like a flat web. It was kind of like three-dimensional. It was going off in all sorts of different directions. And a lot of it was just kind of like me hanging out with the spider. It didn't seem like it was aggressively trying to get me. We were just coexisting together there in the web. But then at a certain point, I felt like I was kind of stuck in the web. Not like the spider was trapping me there, just the web itself was some kind of obstacle, and I kind of crawled my way out of it, which was a little bit of a struggle. Not that it was like sticky so much, but there's just so many strands everywhere. It was hard to kind of get through. But it was like another thing where I like broke through, like coming out of the cave, out of the ground. I was like coming out of this web, and again, like with this feeling of like being free from it. And then sometimes throughout these experiences, like I would open my eyes again and realize I'm in this room. And I kind of felt like there's like a tarantula chilling next to me. And there wasn't, but I felt like its presence was there, and like it didn't bother me. Now in real life, a tarantula next to me would freak me out, but like I felt like there's this tarantula in the room next to me, nearby, just there for the experience, just coexisting. So this is the following day. Right now, as I'm recording this, is one day after the ceremony, and I was thinking like maybe I'm not afraid of spiders anymore. No, I still am. I looked at some pictures online. They still terrify me. But I kind of gained this new perspective on them, like more respect for them. And I think like as long as they stay out of my personal space, they're cool. But don't come into my house. Don't get in my way, and you're fine. So yeah, I'm still scared of spiders, but we had a moment together. Okay, so there was breaking free from the cave and the ground closing in on me. There was breaking free from the spider's web. And then there was another instance where I felt like I was like a bug. Not in the spider's web, but like in a different sense, like coming out of my shell, like a caterpillar molting into a butterfly. But I wasn't a caterpillar or a butterfly, but something similar to that. And then also another, and I don't know how these kept coming up, but at some other point I felt like I was coming out of maybe an egg, and I turned into like a big eagle or bird or something. I don't know what kind of bird. It wasn't specific, because the ones in Inca culture here are Andean condors, but I think mine was just kind of a generic like eagle or falcon or something. But I felt like not like a baby bird hatching from a shell, an egg, but like I turned into like a big strong condor or something. So there's weird symbolism of me breaking free from something. It was a recurring theme. And then again, I don't know how these transitions happen. At some point, I had the vision of a sleeping mouse. And I don't know what it meant at the time, but the feeling that it gave me was like pure happiness and satisfaction. Like just watching this mouse sleep. And at the time, I was thinking like maybe, well, I was a bug in a spider's web, and now I'm a mouse. I think the upgrade to being a mammal was beneficial. I don't know. It was weird. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but it was very comforting to see this sleeping mouse. But then this snake comes into the picture, and they're just both there. There's like the sleeping mouse and the snake now. And I knew, as soon as I saw the snake, I said, oh, the snake's going to eat the mouse. And it never happened, but I knew it was going to at some point, because that's just what they do. It's in their nature. Snakes will eat mice. And like, I just kind of accepted that, I think, as like death is inevitable. So the mouse made me feel happy and satisfied, and the snake represented death at some point, but I never saw it happen. And so I looked this up later on after the ceremony. It's like, what does a mouse represent? And it's something about like adaptability and I don't know if there's any real symbolism there. It's just something that I saw. So I've seen the snakes and birds and oh yeah, the cat. I forgot to talk about the cats. At some point, totally random, there was like a giant cat floating above me, almost like a hot air balloon, and I felt like the cat wanted to like carry me. So the snakes, the cats, and the eagles and birds, they're all part of the culture. The mouse, I don't know where the mouse came from. Weird stuff, right? Very weird stuff. And again, through all of this that I've mentioned so far, it was all happy and pleasant, and I was just enjoying the ride. Like, I was still somewhat lucid, and I knew that, like, they're just visions. And I could open my eyes and kind of see the room again, and I'd close my eyes and be like, this is enjoyable, this is fun. And even, like, I went through a phase of, like, everything was hilarious. Like, I was looking at the spider in his face, and his face was just so funny. It was like, everything was funny. But then at a certain point, things got dark and things got bad for me. And I don't know why there's that such a strong transition, but I was enjoying all these visions, and then suddenly I came back into the room, and the shaman, I think he was quiet for most of all that stuff that had happened up until now, but now he started like chanting and singing, and it was very pleasant. Like whatever he was doing was pleasant to listen to, but it totally changed my experience from that point forward. And at this point, like, I was back in the room, and I knew that, like, okay, I think my visions are done. And it's probably been, I don't know what time it was, it'd probably been at least an hour and a half, and I hadn't, like, vomited yet. Some people vomit right away when they drink the ayahuasca, like, they just can't choke it down. I'd had 2 cups sitting in my body for at least an hour and a half or longer. I was like, okay, I think I need to get this out of my body now. I think I want this experience to be over. So I was able to vomit a little bit, and this is all totally normal. They give you like a bucket to puke in because that's part of the process. So I puked a little bit, but I knew that it wasn't all of it. And I was trying, like I wanted to get it out of my system, and obviously I was still under the influence, and I felt like it was symbolic, like I could only vomit what was necessary to get out of my body. Like if it was only a little bit coming out, that's how it was meant to be. That it just felt right, even though I wanted more to come out. Whatever was happening, it felt normal, even though I didn't want it. So I had some water with me because they tell you to bring it. The drug, the ayahuasca, it has a strong effect on your body. Your muscle coordination it starts to get impaired. So I was trying to drink, but it was very difficult because I wanted to drink to flush my system to purge. So I was trying to drink all my water, and it was just a challenge because I've been like very drunk before, and I know like, okay, I've drank too much, time to hydrate, and I'll drink water. I couldn't do it with this ayahuasca. Like I was trying to drink, and it was just such a struggle. And at one point, I felt like I had to go pee, and I could not walk to the restroom. The shaman had to like kind of help me, guide me there, and I got there, and I couldn't pee. I don't know why, but anyways, so I left the original room that was pretty contained, and I was out in that secondary room now, which does have a window. At that point, like, this is my first time walking around since the whole thing started, and I guess moving around kind of got things going where I was like, I kind of want to get back to reality, and like I looked out the window because in the ceremony room there's no windows that are really open. There's like the skylight, but you can't see through it. But like in the secondary room now, there is a window, and I can see like tourists out on the street, and like I really wanted to go down there and like talk to them just to get back to reality because I know I'm in this room, but like I'm losing sense of time. I'm losing kind of control of my bodily functions, like my muscles mainly. It's hard to walk and talk and things like this. And I like really wanted to go down to the street to get some fresh air and just try to like talk to some people that were on the street to like ground myself in reality. And the shaman and the translator, they're kind of like, no, this is part of the process. You have to stay up here. You have to deal with it on your own. And that is part of the process, is like you're struggling with yourself to get through whatever's going on in your head. But I was really freaking out. I was like having a panic attack because like I was just, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable. I was starting to get really paranoid, and I didn't enjoy the experience anymore. And that's when I think I tried to make some phone calls. Like I tried calling my parents and some other people, and I couldn't like, whereas in the beginning I used to be able to hear cars on the street, like I couldn't hear anything that was outside of this room other than the shaman and the translator. And I tried calling people, and like I couldn't hear them through the phone. It was very much like I was isolated, and it was terrifying, but at the same time, like I knew that's how it's supposed to be. And it was weird because I was half in like a dream state and half lucid, and like I knew what was going on. Like I knew I had this chemical in my system, and I knew I had to try and either just survive long enough where eventually it would get out of my system, or I had to try and purge it out by drinking water and vomiting. But time was going so slow. Like I kept looking at my watch, and it seemed like no time had gone by. And then I tried drinking and vomiting, and I just couldn't. But like I knew it. I was like, I just got to get this drug out of my system, or have to wait it out. And waiting it out was terrible. And that's exactly what was terrible. Is just like this feeling of like paranoia, and I felt like I couldn't control my body, and it was just very, very miserable and scary. It was scary in a lot of different ways. There wasn't anything I could do, but I felt very like animalistic. I was like breathing heavy and like grunting and swearing, and there was like a beam on the ceiling. I was almost hanging on it. I was kind of stretching out my back. I like to hang on things like pull-up bars just to get a good stretch. But I was pacing around a lot. I had a blanket and a pillow. I was trying to just sleep it off. That wasn't working. God, it was just miserable at the end. It doesn't sound bad, and I knew I was going to be okay. See, this is very important here. I knew I was going to be okay because there's a shaman there to take care of you. If I was having like a medical emergency, they'd take me to the hospital. I'm not alone. If I was doing this like alone at home, that would be a very, very bad situation. But as far as I know, like ayahuasca is very safe physically for your body, but mentally, man, it was fucking rough. I mean, I never want to do it again, that's for sure. So what started out as such a nice and pleasant visual experience turned into this terrifying paranoia thing where I just wanted it to be over. And then eventually toward the end, I had like this sadness and apologetic phase where I just felt sorry for everything. And I think that's something when I was trying to call my parents, I was trying to say that I'm sorry for what, I don't know. It was all a blur. Like I was pretty sure I did make phone calls, but it also kind of felt like a dream. I wasn't sure what was real and what was fake. So I went through all these different emotions of like happiness and laughter, and to fear and to sadness and apologetic. But I felt like the shaman was kind of in control of all of this, because you book a certain time slot from, mine was 9 a.m. to 1 p.m, and like come 12 o'clock, like everything started to clear out in my mind. And I think his chanting changed a little bit, and that kind of changed my mood. And then like eventually the last like 45 minutes to 30 minutes, like suddenly I was like, oh, well, that was an interesting experience. Time to get back to the rest of my life. Like normal, like it changed pretty damn quick. It wasn't like a slow sobering up thing. It was like almost an instantaneous transformation from my paranoid and depression and stuff to like, oh, wow, what an interesting spiritual journey that was. Like stoic me. I just felt like I was myself again, and I knew I had to check my phone and probably make some embarrassing calls to see who I had tried to contact during this experience. So I've rambled on for quite some time. I don't know how much of that made any sense, because I lived as a bug, and I fought through the cave, and I crawled out of the ground, and obviously there's some symbolism there, and I'm not sure exactly what it all means. Oh, no. Here, this is something I felt. I forgot to mention this. So a couple of times when I broke free from whatever it was that I was struggling against, I felt like it was life and challenges and maybe even sometimes death closing in. But I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. Like there's still things I want to do. And that's exactly what it was. Like, I'm not ready yet. Like I still have things I want to do. So like, I'm not going to get stuck in this cave. I'm not going to get stuck in this spider web. I'm going to break free from this shell, because like, I'm not done yet. I distinctly remember feeling that at some point. So as a guy who doesn't really believe in like hippie woo-woo magic stuff, this was definitely a spiritual experience. It's crazy. Like it was wild. And I'm trying to think that it wasn't all just for fun. I'm trying to take some lessons away from it. The entities I saw in the beginning that were kind of like overhead and kind of compressing onto me, I felt like it was like I'm not alone. Like there's people or spirits with me, because I live a very isolated lifestyle. Like I've been traveling alone for 6 months. I've got some friends coming in a week, so that'll be nice to hang out with them, and I'm going back home. But like most of my life is pretty lonely, so I had like this feeling of like entities that were like with me. So I guess it's symbolizing that I'm not alone, which is nice. And then the spider thing, maybe I was trying to overcome my fear of spiders, but it didn't necessarily work, but still a fun experience, I suppose. And then I think there was something about acceptance of death, with the snake that I knew was going to eat the mouse for whatever reason, and then just everything kind of feeling like pressure trying to trap me in, and I'm breaking free from it. I felt like it was fighting to survive in a way and thrive. Because every time you break free from one of these things, I felt very strong when I did that. It was not just physical, or not just mental, it was also a lot of physical sensation too. And I guess since I was trying to like make phone calls during this experience, it kind of taught me that maybe I need to stay in contact with people more often than I do now. And then, like I said, I felt very apologetic at some point too. I want to apologize to everyone for everything, and I don't know if there's any specifics there, but that was a feeling that I had. So it was a wild ride. God, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but ayahuasca, man, it's a fucking journey. I was skeptical, but it was spiritual. It felt magical. It was weird. I will not do it again, and I don't know if I recommend it for anybody. The first half was really nice, and then the paranoid part, maybe I don't. They said that was normal, by the way. The translator and the shaman, they're like, it's all part of the process, but it was miserable. It was very miserable. I think I'm still processing it. It's been like a little bit more than 24 hours now, but fuck. That's it. I hope that you have learned something from my beautiful and terrifying experience, and I will see you in the next video.